Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazell, and this is Dev Dive, a show where I get a chance to talk to game developers about their games. And today, we are joined by Mr. Ethan Anderson, aka MogDogBlog, the creator of Nubby's Number Factory, a very interesting and unique game that has kind of been popping off as of late. And we're here to get the inside scoop on the story from the guy behind the game. But Ethan, thank you very much for joining me. I only emailed you like a week ago, and you're already on this show, so quick turnaround there.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be on, and thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. I love doing these sorts of things.
Yeah, and I saw you've done a couple of other interviews, and now I want to be transparent. I have not watched them because I don't want to like copy their questions or like. But so like honestly, if I cover something that's already been covered before in these other interviews, like I want to know what I want to know, frankly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. No limits. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to get a sense of who you are as a game developer and what your history is with making games, because you're one of the younger people that I've had on this show. Before we started recording, you mentioned that you're taking classes right now, and basically everyone I've talked to has been like 15 years older than me. We're operating in sort of a different time scale of experience, but you've made a game that people are playing and enjoying, and I want to know what got you into game design and how long you've been sort of tinkering with making games.
As of right now, I'm 21 and I'm in my third year of college. Hopefully graduate in like another year or so. I'm not going to college for game development. I'm going to college to be an art teacher. So completely,
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
kind of different spaces there. And I actually originally I did go to college as a freshman for game development. I had been doing it up until that point. I think I started when I was 17. So, I had a couple of years under my belt and I'm like, this is awesome. I love doing it. So I'm just going to go to school for it. So I did. And it's like the first big program meeting that we're having. And they sit all of us freshmen down in an auditorium. And like the first thing they say is like, all right, so I know you're all here to make video games. I know that's what you want to do. I'm going to tell you it's not going to happen. And that like, that completely crushed me. And I'm like,
Huh.
okay. Let's turn it around and do something else here.
Yeah.
The way that I took that was like, I'm not gonna get a job. Very not likely. I think is how they put it. You're not likely to get a job. I'm not likely to get a job working, at at a studio or something. And I'm like, well, if it's not secure, I'm not sure if I want to go down that route. So I just kind of packed up my bags and moved over to learning how to be an art teacher,
Yeah.
and that's what I've been doing since. But I mean, I still have been obviously working on game development in my free time. It's just kind of treating it as a hobby. I'm like, hey, maybe one day it'll pay off and it'll just be a couple extra bucks in my pocket and just
Yeah.
something fun to do. I love doing it, so it's like,
Yeah.
why not, right?
And I like that story as it shows what it's like to try to be a developer at a young age in this day and age, which is the games industry is so rocky right now, and studios are closing and there's layoffs everywhere. And I appreciate the honesty from your professors that it is going to be very difficult for someone to get a professional job in the games industry, especially as, just a couple years ago when you were starting the courses. But what you I think took as inspiration is that you're still passionate about this, and just because you can't get a job working at someone else's studio doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean you can't make games. Doesn't mean you can't find your own way into creating something. And that's what you did as a hobby, and now it has become something that you're able to sort of shape your life around, hopefully. I mean, you've made a game that people are buying and enjoying quite a bit. And so I like that you taking that challenge and finding your own path forward.
Yeah, that's what I should have mentioned. I mean, it's like they weren't trying to mislead us or be cruel,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, they're totally being honest, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That's not a good thing to do to like 200 college freshmen is be
yeah.
like, yeah, you're gonna get a job right away when you're probably not. And you might be doing something like adjacent to game development, but to me it was like, I'm doing game development or I'm not going to be like making simulations for like a company that's like a mining company or something, which is one of the options. But yeah, so I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I mean, like I said, I like working on Nubby, and I still do. Stakes are a little bit higher now that there's so many people watching. But at the same time, that's cool because now there's so many people watching. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pros and cons.
everything, yeah, like everything I do gets a good amount of like people that really care about it, and that's a super cool feeling. That's, I think, one of my biggest motivators is that it's like I get to make something that people actually enjoy and like spend time in. It's so cool to me. So cool.
Definitely. Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to be a game developer. Are there any games that you remember playing that you really found the design fascinating? Like, oh man, I want to know how this works, or I want to know if I could do this myself. Do you remember if there was any moment or specific, particular titles that unlocked that desire in you to want to pursue this as a greater passion?
Yeah. The Binding of Isaac. That's one that I'll cite as like the idea that one person could go out, I think it was one or two, that could go out and just make something so enthralling and so like professional looking and like such good design. It said like, okay, like you don't have to be a big group of people to make something that's well designed and something that's fun. The success of that was like my eye opener to the indie scene.
That was definitely one of that early crop of like 2010s indie games that people were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like these are going to be dominating the industry. And it's interesting to have watched indie games evolve over the course of the last 10, 15 years. Early 2010s, you got Super Meat Boy and Bastion and Binding of Isaac, and then you hit Shovel Knight and Undertale and Stardew Valley. But like things start snowballing to where I think actually most of the games that I find super, super interesting now are the ones coming from totally unique teams that are not the well-established larger teams, which of course I like in their own right. But we're getting to the point now where games like yours that are capturing the zeitgeist over the things that are like the highly produced from Ubisoft or EA to make something that is appeals to the mass market. But like, there's just a totally different vibe going into this year as opposed to like when that game came out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The scene continues to kind of shift in that direction. I think as you know, there's growing frustration with big companies putting out mediocre games,
Sure.
and a growing admiration at the same time for people who are just out doing it by themselves because they like making games. It's going to take its natural path and the path of least resistance, and I'm pretty optimistic about where it's going for indie developers. It's cool. It's a cool time to be a game developer. I don't think I would have even said that like a couple of years ago. I kind of thought, because there was a period of time where there hadn't been like any huge indie games that came out, and I was like, oh man, is the dream dead, you know? And like I kind of felt like that for like a year or two, and then we got this kind of second wave of like Pizza Tower, Balatro, all these
Yeah.
games that are like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, we're back, you know? Those coming out was like a second wave of inspiration to me.
When you started making Nubby as the active project that we were working on, were there any indie games that sort of hit the zeitgeist around then that you're like, oh, maybe I can sort of capitalize on this hunger for a smaller project?
Yeah, there was. I wouldn't call it a small project, but around the time when Nubby was like in its very formative stage, like I mean, start of 2024 is when Balatro was starting to be like super big, right? You know, when that happened, I borrowed so much of like fundamental design aspects from that game. Try to being faithful to, okay, you should try to make your own thing here, right? So there had been this kind of wave of smaller indie games that were roguelikes. And what they did is they took something that was well known and they squeezed all of the juice out of it, and every last drop of design that you could possibly get out of a simple concept that people knew about. Like Peglin was one. So the Pachinko right there. I mean, that's pretty dead giveaway. Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers, and like these games like Bellagio, like where it had, okay, you're playing these poker hands. That's a well-known thing, and people can relate to that, and that inspired me to be like, okay, let's take something super easy like a ball dropping game, and let's turn it into like something that's got some depth to it. Those games, I would put myself and Nubby into that category.
Simple concept, and you're just trying to be like, how far can we take this? Yeah.
Yes.
If
Yes,
by really
exactly.
committing to the bit. So you talked about games like Balatro and Binding of Isaac as sort of roguelike inspirations of games that you've really loved. But on the Pachinko side, what's your history with Pachinko style games, with ball drop style games? Are there any that you've loved for a long time? Is this a genre you've been passionate about for a while, or is this something you sort of discovered while making this game?
When I was a kid, when I was a wee lad, Peggle That was all the rage for a while. There's so many parts of that game that were just a direct inspiration. It's a completely different game, Nubby and Peggle, right? But the fundamental foundation of those two games is very similar, and I love that game, and I find myself picking it up to this day. Like, just when I'm really bored, it's a really bored game. And like, I pick it up when I'm super bored and play it, and it's still fun. The fun factor is still there. So obviously what they've done here and taking this super simple game and kind of magnifying it, that's obviously still effective to this day. It's because I feel like I would call Peggle still, I wouldn't call it outdated. I would say
Yeah,
it's a
sure.
pretty good game by today's standards.
That's a very core concept. You talk about Peglin or Nubby, which take that and put a spin on it, and again, kind of take the bit as far as it can go. But like that is that solid core of sparks flying and things exploding as you drop the ball, and so definitely something there that is kind of evergreen, I think would be the word.
Yeah, yeah, good way to put it.
With making Nubby, do you think you were trying to make something that was evergreen, right? That people would be revisiting for a long time, or is this something that you thought, let's see what I can do with this now, or do you just sort of have bigger hopes for it be something that's evergreen?
Okay, I mean, completely honest, it was a side project at first. And it was just something that I wanted to be small, fun, playable. You pick it up for like a couple hours, and then you'd be like, all right, I feel like I've had my fun. Once I realized that there's a lot of people who are into this, this is even before release. I realized there was a lot of people into it, and I'm like, I should really kind of expand upon this to give it some longevity here. So it was about half and half. About half the time I was just trying to make something stupid and just trying to make a game, period. And then the other half I was trying to think like, okay, like what can we do here to extend the lifespan of the game? And my current philosophy of kind of where I'm at right now is like trying to add those interactions in the game that are gonna feel replayable, because that's kind of what that is. It's just how replayable is it and how much juice can you squeeze out of the game before you call it, before you're sick of it. Trying to think of ways to do that is my current philosophy. Like what are the things that I can add that will just completely shake things up and make it feel fresh again, even to those who have like 10 or 20 hours on it. I'm really satisfied though with how much life people are squeezing out of it. Like, I've seen people with like 40 or 50 hours isn't like super uncommon. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah, that you're able to play it for that long and keep finding enjoyment and reasons to play it. That's my current philosophy. It's just trying to make it evergreen. I wouldn't quite say it's there yet, but
You mentioned that you saw that people were kind of hungering for it even before release. So talk a little bit about that. Like, who did you have playing the game? How did you sort of get a sense that this was something that people were going to gravitate to? And then we can shift gears into once it was released, sort of how it was received.
yeah. So I started work on Nubby back in October of 2023. So it's been a while, and it's slowly morphed. And I hadn't no one knew about it until like I kind of packed it up. It had been like 4 months of working on it, and I packed it up and said, this is done. Like, I'm kind of sick of it. And it was nowhere near where it is today. It was barely fun. I sent it off to a couple friends on Discord, and a couple weeks later they were like, hey, you should come in, like voice chat. We're all having a tournament on your game right now. I'm
Oh,
like
whoa.
what? There's no way, because I kind of called it done. Like, I was already working on another game by the time this happened. Like, I was so sick of it. Here was, like 10 people having a little mini tournament, playing a Nubby in a channel, and it kind of re-inspired me to keep working on it
Yeah, very
and
cool.
flesh it out. So that's when I knew, I'm like, okay, well, this is actually fun. I'm onto something here. So that was like the confirmation that I needed to work on it for about another year. It was October of 2024. So a year after I started, I began posting about it on social media, like, hey, come check it out. And I racked up like a decent following on TikTok, which is actually where I found most of my success in that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I kind of garnered this really small cult following of about like 200 people who were like super into it. This is while I was working on the full release. The demo was out, and people were like coming up with challenges and stuff to extend the lifetime. So, I kind of try to capitalize on that. There was that small cult following, and it kind of kept me going, thinking like, okay, well, now I've got, maybe like 1,000 people watching the game. And that's kind of what it was up until release. By release, I had about 1,200 wish lists on Steam. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Like, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
right?
Especially for your first commercial release.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, cool. We're I'll make probably a couple $1,000 and I don't have to work this summer, right? So,
Yeah.
I was super stoked about that, and then I released it, and it, pretty much did exactly how I thought it would. Like at first, I made a couple $1,000, and I'm like, sweet, like we're good. Slowly over time, is kind of when it started to shift into a bigger deal, and like exponentially bigger deal than it was. It was a small cult following game until it wasn't at all.
Yeah. Well, we talk about slowly, but the game's only been out for like a month and a half. So we're talking about a really short time frame here of the game actually being available to the public. And what I'm so excited about is getting you on this conversation early and sort of this being like a time capsule of what it was like early days of Nubby before, who knows what's going to happen in the future, how much bigger, or, it could slow down, who knows. But what I think is so interesting about it is you noticing that people were sort of glomming onto it in terms of creating challenges and having competitions and things. And one thing that I think make a game like this in its sort of high score, random, sort of crazy nature, it appeals very strongly to the internet age, frankly. People watching streamers, watching challenges, watching people react to what are the craziest combos you can get to get the biggest numbers. And one of the biggest things about this game, and I think what I would like you to talk about, is the way that streamers have sort of glommed onto this and made it a bigger game and introduced it to their massive audiences. But before we sort of talk about the streamers that did help bring it to bigger success, were you considering that as you were designing the game? Like, this is something that streamers will like, that this is something that will appeal to that internet age, sharing clips, people reacting to giant number combos and things like that?
Yeah, that was like that kind of design where we're thinking like, what's something where you can watch it for like a second and be kind of like amazed by how insane it is.
Yeah, yeah.
That was by design, and it was TikTok really that kind of pushed me to do that, because I needed to cram, like, here's a some footage of my game. How can I cram this into like 10 seconds and immediately hook the player? That's kind of what it was. It was thinking like, let's just do, a bunch of really insane stuff right away. Like, always start the video with something that's eye-catching. And that art style that I used, it's pretty, I would say, eye-catching. It's unusual, it's unconventional, which is kind of like, people want what they haven't seen. So all those things were kind of by design to make it streamable. And even like the UI, like you're kind of playing in this box, that was kind of also part of that too. Was like, how I need to, I can't crop off the screen. It's, you're watching it on
Yeah,
a
sure.
phone, right? So I need to think
Interesting.
about that.
So was the game ever designed with the wider play field in mind?
No, it was pretty much always that like 1-to-1 ratio square, and that was like the best I could do. I tried so many different layouts, but this is the final one that I landed on, where I thought like, okay, this would be good. You don't really need most of the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so with this being something that then ended up in the hands of streamers and ended up building the audience because of that, was there any activity or intention on your end to getting this game in the hands of streamers? Did you contact any streamers? Do you have any favorite streamers that you wanted to play the game? Was it something you actively pursued or something that's just sort of happened through happenstance?
There was one event that I know kickstarted it. And a lot of developers do this. Like, I just had a list of like 500 people. I sent
Whoa.
all of them keys.
Oh my
And
God.
it took me like 6 hours, and I got maybe like 2 replies. And I'm like, this is rough. So it was really rough for a time. Like, eventually, this streamer, his name was Chibley, and I knew of him at the time, and he was the first one to really pick it up. When he played it, there was like 1,000 people watching, and I thought, this is so cool. But even cooler, because the one thing that I knew about Chibley was that he was friends with Northern Lion. So that, seeing like, oh wow, okay, so this guy knows someone who's huge, and that apparently I had overheard rumors that Northern Lion was in the chat when Chibley was playing Nubby for the first time, and
Hmm.
he was planning on playing it the next day. That's what ended up happening. That morning was so freaky for me. Like, I just couldn't keep my hands still. Like, just the
Yeah,
whole
of
morning
course.
waiting for him to start the stream. I'm like, because no one's telling you. No one's telling you that, oh, I'm gonna play your game today. It was a surprise. I just kind of waiting there in suspense, and all of a sudden, like, he comes on, starts playing his word games or whatever, and then he switches over to Nubby, and I'm like,
There you
I
go.
mean, blew my mind. It's so surreal because I've been watching him for years. Um, and like his taste in roguelikes is my taste in roguelikes. So
Sure, sure, sure.
it kind of came full circle there for a moment.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and let's talk about as that immediately happens. You're watching that stream. You're watching this guy that you've been a fan of play the game, and you know the potential of his impact, right? He is the kind of guy that when he plays a game, it becomes a part of the streamer's zeitgeist. Other people start making clips of it. The other streamers start playing it to sort of capitalize on that momentum that his audience is building. But on the developer's side, as you're watching this stream, how quickly did you see that turnaround of interest being garnered in wish lists and purchases and engagement and social media following? Was this something that then built up over the course of a couple of weeks, or did it happen almost overnight?
It was pretty much instantly. Like, I mean, I think when within the first hour of him playing, there was like 14,000 people watching the stream, if I remember correctly, which is a normal amount for him. Within like the first hour, I think I sold like 3,000 copies.
Holy moly! Okay, so oh my god! I mean, you made almost a year's worth of money in that 1 hour because of this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why
That's
I was
amazing.
freaking out over it. I'm like, because
Holy
I
crap!
knew I'm like, this is gonna be huge, and it was. It was insane. I didn't think it would be that big, but I mean, wow. It took me back. It totally really took me back, and it was like, wow. Okay, so now that completely changed my life. you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if has happened or not, but have you talked to him? Like, is this a conversation you've had? Like, thanks for helping me out here.
No, I wish I could talk to him. No, I don't know how to get a hold of him.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he knows that it really affected me,
Sure.
which, and
Yeah.
I keep watching him, keep supporting him. That's my thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting that e- when a streamer plays a game, there's never the guarantee that it's something that they're even going to like. And I can't even imagine the stress that it must feel of like, okay, someone's going to be playing this game, and what if they don't like it? What if they are playing it and they play it for 5 minutes, like this is dumb, and just put it down? That could really tank your potential of like things to grow. But obviously, he did like it, and he actually has played quite a bit of it. I mean, even as of I think 3 days ago, I'm looking at his YouTube channel. There's another Nubby video that is uploaded, which means he's been doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks and consistently streaming and uploading clips and uploading YouTube videos that have, looks, I'm just looking here, like almost all of them have like 70, 80,000 views. And so every time one of those is uploaded, literally almost 100,000 people are engaging with that. And has that spike sort of continued in terms of engagement and sales and things after that? Has it continued going up, or is it kind of plateaued?
Well, it actually didn't peak right when Northern Lion played it.
Oh, okay.
It peaked like 4 or 5 days after. There's this phenomenon where when Northern Lion plays a game, every other streamer plays it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, so that's what happened. Like give it a couple days, and now there's so many other streamers that have been playing it and enjoying it. That was the peak. And it peaked and it plateaued like super insane amount of purchases per day. It plateaued for like a week, and then it kind of steadily declined, but it's still like, I mean, an insane amount every single day. And like there's these little like micro peaks that I'm noticing where I'm like, what happened? Like, did someone big pick it up for a day? And but it still hasn't slowed down. Like there's not a day where I don't sell at least 5,000 copies. Like,
Holy shit.
yeah, like it's insane. I don't know how to. I don't know what to do.
I get like 100 views on my YouTube videos. I can't even imagine that. And you're making money off it. I don't make money on this shit.
yeah. I've. It's been so awesome, but so stressful.
Yeah,
Because like 2 months ago, there was hardly anyone who knew
of
about the
course.
game. There
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like a small community, and now it is pretty widely known as, one of the bigger games to come out in 2025. And it's really surreal. And I'm having to do all these things, like worry about like financial advisors now, and like
Sure.
I'm
Whoa.
21, I don't know what I'm
Like,
doing, like
God, I'm still in college. Help.
yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's weird. And plus it's, this feeling of it's affected me in my school too. Like I've been going to college for 3 years to get a job, and education in America, you're lucky to get like 45 grand a year, and it's like, how do I justify, putting in all this effort to go make like 1/12 of what I made in the last
Yeah, yeah.
month.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, of course, at a certain point, that ends up becoming. I mean, that's the backup, right? Is like at least you have a degree, and if your game development career does not continue, because it is a volatile world out there, you made a success, but that does not guarantee that this is something you can continue for a long time. And so, at least you'll have something to still fall back on as a teacher. So, I think that it's still very smart that you're continuing that and didn't immediately drop it.
Yeah, that's the exact thought process too. It's like, yeah, maybe you never know. I could put out a couple more games, they're all flops, and that's that. And I pack it up and go, work as an art teacher, which is totally fine. I'm happy doing it, right? Because I mean, I wouldn't be doing it if I hated it. So yeah, it's just a backup at this point. But it does make studying a little bit harder, because
Sure,
it's
of
like,
course.
well, I'm not going for prestigious at this point. I'm just trying to pass, right? But yeah, it's overall though, it has positively affected my life. It's good.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. And one final question about reception before we get into design. I'm curious how the game has impacted like reactions from your friends and family, and like talking about and them being like aware of game development. I mean, I assume that your parents know this is something you've been passionate about for a while. Your friends are aware that you've been something you do as a hobby, but now that it is something that has made a very significant impact on your life, what has the sort of social reaction from the people around you been?
Kind of disbelief. My parents, I think when I first told them, how much money I'd been making, they were in shock, and it was like a scramble to try to figure out, okay, like what's the next steps, right? And super proud of me though. They're still trying to process it. I'm still trying to process it. My girlfriend, I mean, she's been following the development of Nubby since day one, so it's cool for her to see it. Everyone's so proud, and kind of just in disbelief. Like, I thought you were working on like a personal project here. I didn't know you were like that's what you were doing. I'm like, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And it's done this really cool thing as you go on in life, and when you're in school, friends move away, and you don't see people very often. I've had numerous people who I haven't talked to in like 10 years, like reach out and be like, "Hey, I just played Nubby. That's you right there, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it is." That's so cool. Like I just got off the phone with a long lost friend yesterday, and it was so cool to kind of have that bridge again where you can be like, okay, like what's up? Like it's been so long. So that's how it's kind of affected my personal relationships. Is now I'm reminded all these people exist and are still doing well, and it's cool. It's really cool to be connected with those people again.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, getting a little bit more into the active design of the game, you mentioned that the eye-catching art style was something that was a big drive for you, is to make something that was immediately visually distinct, especially so that people would glom onto it and be like, "Oh, what's this? I got to learn more." And you also have mentioned, obviously, that you are learning to be an art teacher, and so I think it follows that art is something you're also very passionate about. And so, how has your passion with art sort of informed the especially visual language of Nubby?
Well, art's always been something that I've been kind of in tune to. Like even when I was playing games when I was a kid, like the art of a game is what I love the most.
Sure. Any art styles that you remember like really loving?
the type of game that I played a lot was like these really bad shovelware games of like early 2000s. They were like just total cash grabs, but there was something charming about the art
Interesting.
style.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
probably the biggest direct inspiration to the art style in Nubby, is that like edutainment games you played in computer
Yeah,
lab
yeah, of
kind
course.
of games.
Yeah, and it
Yes.
does feel very cool math games
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah. I was big on Flash games as a kid. Like all those sites, those were my home. So it's kind of a callback to that. I think there's a lot of people who are 18 or older at this point, who are all nostalgic for that. That hasn't really been filled. That place in the market is pretty untouched for that era, at least.
Yeah, yeah. And so you got this unique art style, but then it also, obviously, on a gameplay level, is a Peggle sort of pachinko, but also roguelike game, which is something that Peglin also did. Is a game that I really like. I actually got a chance to talk to those devs last year, and I met them at PAX, which was awesome. But this, I think, the games feel very complementary because they're not the same at all. Peglin's got a little bit more RPG. This has got a little more like crazy shit in a good way, in a good way. And so giving Nubby the energy that it has of like, I use this in a complimentary way, abrasive colors and loud noises and all this like sort of visual noise going on. How hard was that to sort of balance into something that was not too overwhelming, but the right amount of overwhelming? Because I feel like that's kind of the intent of the game, is to kind of like stimulate you quite a bit.
Yes, yeah. So it was hard to do that. I think the approach that I took to it was like trying to make something that you could look at and not get a headache. Like, because I tested it on a couple people where there was some flashing lights and some things that would go off, and they would be like, I don't even know, I can't even like look at it anymore. Like just below that line was where I was trying to sit. And like, because there's those runs that you get where it's like I've seen screenshots where I'm just trying to find like, where even is he? Like I'm trying to find Nubby, and I'm like where I can't even see you on the screen. There's like stuff flying all over the place. So that, at an extreme level, it is my goal to kind of pass that a little bit, that line of comfort where you're like, this is starting to get stupid and like my head hurts. To kind of just sneak past it sometimes, but mostly idle below it, so it's not totally visually overwhelming and overstimulating.
Sure, yeah. So as you were developing the visual style, back to that real quick, were there any other visual styles that you experimented with, like, or like in terms of visual art style? Did you ever try any other visual designs before landing on this one?
Yeah, there was like this kind of flat 2D art thing. Like I was going for something like Pizza Tower at one point. And if you play some like really early betas of the game, which I think are out there somewhere, it's kind of going for the Pizza Tower look, where like jittery animations. So there is kind of this weird mix of that flat 2D art along with all 3D pre-rendered assets. So you're seeing like remnants of that. That was the first direction where I was trying to go. And then eventually I started throwing in 3D rendered stuff just as like, oh, maybe it would be cool to just put this in there just because it contrasts, and it's cool to see like a 3D thing where there's mostly 2D things. I just kept adding those things. I'm like, all right, well, it's taken over now. I got to pick one or the other. So I went with predominantly the 3D, the pre-rendered stuff. It still does have its roots in that design, the flat art.
Sure, yeah. And so you talk about these pre-rendered assets. Primarily, those are in the form of the items that you can get in the game, and the items they're the weirdest part of the game. I mean, this lineup of items that you've chosen to be the power-ups you get in the game are just like totally balls to the wall, like random ass things and like little gizmos and doodads that like I can't even quite place what they're supposed to be. And so as you're designing a new item, we can talk a little bit about the gameplay design as well. I want to get into that, but on a visual side, how did you choose what the hell are you going to put in this game? I mean, I'm like, okay, like, tardigrade, smiley face, cheese house. It's like, what's wrong with you, frankly?
Oh, okay, so most of that stuff, all of that idea where it's just a bunch of random stuff, that comes from prior experience and learning from mistake where I tried to make like a pirate themed game at one point.
Oh,
And I was
okay.
trying to do the same thing where I had like a bunch of items and do a bunch of things. But I got stuck because I'm like, how many pirate themed things are there? You know, there's only so many pirate themed like what, like a telescope or an eye patch? Like those are the only things I could come up with. I'm like, okay, let's just do something where it's just a bunch of random stuff that has anything to do with each other. So there's an unlimited amount of things of options for me to explore.
Yeah. The thematic pool is very wide.
Yes, yeah, yeah. There's no rules there. You know, for the specific items, the method was trying to find a balance between like funny but like coherent, I guess, for most of them. Like I found that if I wasn't enjoying it while I was making it, and if I didn't if I was looking at it when it was done and I wasn't like laughing at it, then I would cut it.
Do you have any examples of things that didn't quite make the cut?
Yeah, there was like a pepper, like a hot pepper that was supposed to be a food, and it was just like it was a pepper with two eyes, and it like I don't know, like danced a little bit. But I'm like, this is dumb. Like it's a what pepper, like because there's a cheese house and there's like a rotating cactus. Like trying to find these, make it look interesting and make it fun. There was like a potato at one point. It was just like a potato, and there nothing special about it. So those are the things that I cut. Where I'm like, this is just kind of meh, you know.
Yeah. So on the gameplay design level of all these different items, they have a variety of different impacts on the gameplay and the kind of combos you can get and how quickly you're build up different kinds of scores. And so as you're designing a new item, how do you approach that gameplay design to not only make sure they're balanced, but that you have a variety of impacts that they can do?
I mean, there's a few things, the rules that I have. The biggest one is that they have to be able to stack. So you would have to have some benefit of from being able to like activate it 1,000 times in a frame. Like if activating it once per round is like its only thing, and then any consecutive triggers is just like whatever, and then I would have to kind of choose a different route or reword it, kind of fix the logic there to make it stack and make it better. It also has to be able to be improved upon. There has to be like an upgraded version of every item. So that was like the second rule. And as for balancing, it's like for items, most items abide by this rule. They don't do anything with triggering. Like that's all left to the perks. And perks don't do anything else that isn't triggering. Like they pretty much exclusively trigger items. Like that's by design. So it's like you can separate those two, or else it's like kind of muddies the water of like, okay, well this could be a perk or an item, and you're just arbitrarily choosing.
Especially because the items and the perks are just like weird things, so it's not like they're divided thematically.
Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's kind of especially think about that, right? Because that's the downside of not really having a theme, I guess. Those are like the biggest rules that I have. As for balancing, there's very few rules with balancing. I decide how rare to make something or how expensive to make it after I've already added it to the game, and I'm like, okay, how broken is this?
Gotcha.
And,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll completely underestimate it. Like in the case of like the pregnancy tests a couple updates ago, like it's probably the best item in the game. But I had it in common. So like it was the only item that people took from the black market. That was just, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm a one person team and I'm making mistakes, but that's why it's important to listen to the community.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about that community feedback, obviously you mentioned that it was a small hardcore community. Game came out and now has grown and grown and grown. And so how have you sort of dealt with this larger community, interacting with them, responding to feedback? Do you have like a Discord server? Are you active on social media, replying to people? What's that balance for you like in terms of you being one guy making this surprise hit, very popular game, and a hungry community of people who have like all sorts of feedback and are talking about it constantly?
Yeah, so the Discord server has kind of always been the hub for the community. Like at release, I had like 400 people on it. I was pretty happy with that. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
that's not bad.
pretty big, you know. And then it released and it popularity surged, and now it's up to like 7,500 people.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's a big change. Trying to manage that Where before it was like sometimes just dead. And now it's like I can't, when I send out like an announcement and like ping everyone, I have to make sure that like all the mods are on. Like you need to be on because there's about to be 200 people in general. Like so learning those things, learning from mistakes, and having the help of other people to manage the community is huge. It's a good place too for taking feedback from people who really like the game. I don't like to read Steam reviews, to be honest. It's either it's like a joke, or it's just something completely non-constructive. But like looking at content suggestions, I have a whole channel for it on the server, and it's just something I can look through every once in a while where I'm like, I should add something to the game, and I don't know what. And I'll just go through there and just take someone's idea.
Yeah, cool. And they'll be super happy to have that
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, that's the best part. They're like, yeah, go for it, plagiarism, and they're super happy about it. And there's like some places just support, like submit bugs and stuff. So it's just like a good place for me to like gauge how people are interacting with things and get that sense. And I'm really grateful that Discord is a thing and that there's a community hub like this. I'm super happy with how it's been. It's been an adjustment, but it's been a good adjustment.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. As you were making this game, as you were making this a project that you're putting a lot of time into, what was the hardest thing that you sort of had to teach yourself while making the game? Like, what was the hardest aspect of designing Nubby that was a challenge for you to overcome before the final release?
The biggest one was time. And this isn't something that I taught myself. It's just the nature of time taught me. I shot myself in the foot like 4 or 5 times throughout the life cycle of Nubby, where I'm like, the devil's gonna be out this day, and then it would be like 2 weeks leading up to it. I'm like, there's no way. And I did the same thing with the full release, where I'm like, it's gonna be out January 10th, and then it was January 1st, and I was nowhere near done. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna push it back all the way to like the end of March or the start of March, and people were fine with that. But learning from those things, that's rough. And like, I mean, there was leading up to March 7th, it wasn't even feature complete by March 5th. Like, it's scary. Yeah, it was really scary, and I was working like 48 hours straight, just trying to get it done because there was like a good amount of people watching, and I felt like this pressure to not delay it again. So trying to maintain a reputation. So learning about time management and learning how to better set expectations has been a huge learning experience throughout this whole process. And I guess maybe learning to respect like work-life balance as well.
Yeah.
So I tend to be a bit of a workaholic on, especially like leading up to release, where I was just working so hard on it that I'm like, whoa, I forgot I have homework, like
Yeah.
things like that. And learning to be a little bit better about that too. And it's definitely, I've improved at that. And I'm actually currently taking like a little bit of a hiatus from the development of Nubby, just for like a week, and taking it slow, just because I was getting so burnt out, where I'm like, I just need to do something else. Like, I need to play video games. Haven't done that in months,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, well, why don't we close out on that? I mean, you as a gamer, you've talked about some of the roguelikes that you've really loved and some of the streamers that you've watched. And so obviously you're a game dev, but also playing games is something that I'm sure you're very, very passionate about. And so let's talk about some of your either favorite games of all time you can choose, or any recent games that you've been super passionate about. And of course, if you want to get super into roguelikes, you can, but are there any other genres, area of games that you are super passionate about?
Yeah, there's a few. I guess probably roguelike would be the main one. Favorites in that genre, I'm actually into Peglin. I like that game. I like Risk of Rain. Like kind of some of these classic roguelikes at this point. Those are like the ones that I find myself gravitating to the most. As for other genres, I'm actually really into the bullet hell genre.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like classic shmups they're up my alley. There's been a couple good ones that have come out in recent years, like one called Blue Revolver. But yeah, I really love classic bullet hell games because I love the intensity and the overstimulation that comes with those. For some reason, I just really gravitate to that. And as a kid, my biggest games were sandbox games. So I played so much Minecraft, so much Gary's Mod, like those God games too, like City Skylines and The Sims. I was huge on those for a long time. I like to dabble though in just about every genre, just because That's how you find ideas for games.
Definitely.
Is just experiencing video games and learning from other people and seeing what worked, what didn't, right? So yeah, I'm all for exploration.
Absolutely. And in this hiatus that you're taking, and as you sort of uh, find a better work life balance now that the game is out and you know that you can sort of put time into it without having to worry about money, frankly, what are the games that you have let yourself sort of relax back into now that you have time for games? Is there anything that you're playing right now that you're really enjoying? Doesn't have to be new, but anything you're into?
Yeah, there's been two. So the first one is called Star of Providence.
Yeah, yeah. That's a shmup style game, right? Yeah.
Yep, yes, it's just roguelike shmup. I love it so much. I just can't stop playing it. And I picked it up like I don't know, like a week ago, and I already have like 27 hours on it.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I've been really relaxing. And then 7 Days to Die as well. This zombie apocalypse game, I love it. I've been playing it for years, and it's stupid, and the graphics are clunky, but it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I love that you're willing to like experiment with a bunch of different stuff in terms of genre and era and things because I'm the exact same way. And the final question is, with this sort of variety of genres you're interested in, sandbox games, god games, do you have any aspirations of exploring other genres in terms of design? Obviously, you made a roguelike and you've tried to make other games sort of in that style before, but do you have any desires to sort of branch out, or do you think that now that you know you've got an audience for that, that you want to stay sort of in the roguelike area?
That's a really good question and something I'm still trying to figure out. First time doing this, I don't know, right, if financially is this a good idea to stick with roguelikes? I would have no problem with it because it's my favorite genre, but there's also this part of me that wants to expand and get a wider market. Because I'd like to believe that there's a lot of people into the game because it's a roguelike. There's also a lot of people into it because it has a cool art style. So maybe kind of take those players that are like, oh, I love the art style of this game, and I can maybe make an RPG or something, and they all
Yeah,
flock
yeah.
over there just for the art style. I don't know. I've,
Okay,
I've
cool.
I've been kicking around RPG, like kind of story based games for a while. I want my next thing to be short.
Yeah, so and you said you want to make sort of a short RPG?
Yeah, I want to make something short because Nubby it's such a long game. And for development, and there's so many iterations. I'm like, what's something I can just crank out but have it still be good? That's the direction that I'm going. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I feel pretty good with this interview. I'm happy with everything. And thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah, very good to talk to you. I will leave a link to buy Nubby on Steam in the description. There's currently a sale going on. I don't know how long it's going to be going on for or when this is going to go up, but the game is cheap anyway, and I implore people to go try it. I really enjoyed what I played of it, and so Ethan, thank you very much for joining me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.